Legendary figure of the 17th century. Part playwright, part poet. Who was William Shakespeare? And what legacy did he leave? Born April 23, 1564, Shakespeare was the fourth of John and Mary Arden Shakespeare's 8 children. The prominent author, playwright, poet, and entrepreneur began growing up in the town of Stratford-upon-Avon in England. He enrolled in King's New School, a grammar school chartered in 1554, where he likely learned the Latin and English skills that allowed him to become arguably the finest playwright of the English language. He married Anne Hathaway at age 18. They had their first child just 6 months after they married, and twins just 2 years later. His son sadly passed away at the tender age of 11 years old. Although the records are unclear, documents have been uncovered to show that Shakespeare began as a managing partner for the Lord Chamberlain's Men Acting Company in a surviving copy of the Stationer's Register from 1592, containing a criticism from well-known playwright Robert Greene, which confirms Shakespeare had plays on the stages by the time of its release. This is the first mention of his existence as a playwright. The Lord Chamberlain's Men, which later became the Kingsmen after the coronation of King James I, was popular and soon became the leading acting company in London. Shakespeare and his business partners would go to build a theatre closer to his home in Stratford in 1599, which would be called the Globe Theatre. Perhaps Shakespeare's most notable achievements were the plays he wrote and managed. Some of them are still being performed some 400 years later. Shakespeare's theatrical performances can be divided roughly into 3 categories: tragedies, comedies, and histories. Tragedies include many of his most famous works, such as Romeo and Juliet, Hamlet, and Macbeth. A typical Shakespeare tragedy follows a very simple structure. Let's take a closer look at Romeo and Juliet. First, there's the exposition. Here we meet Romeo Montague and Juliet Capulet. Side note, these are just representation of the characters and in no way, shape, or form portrays actual characters and actors. I just can't draw. Naturally, their families hate each other. Next, we have rising action. Romeo meets Juliet and falls for her. At this point, Juliet's cousin, Tybalt, is planning to kill Romeo. Then, climax. Romeo kills Tybalt and is banished from Verona. Juliet is told to marry Paris instead. The following action, Juliet in turn fakes her own death. And as a result, they both end up killing themselves. Finally, there's the resolution. The Capulets and the Montagues finally end their feud. During his theatrical career, the bubonic plague hit and many theaters were forced to shut down. As a result, Shakespeare spent lots of his time writing some of his most notable poetry. William Shakespeare's poetry pales in comparison to his theatrical career, but its importance is still undeniable. Over the course of his life, he wrote 154 sonnets and 2 notable longer poems. His most famous sonnet would be sonnet number 18, which is about a man with eternal beauty. Sonnet number 73, another quite popular sonnet, describes a man approaching death as he reminisces his youth being so very different. He learns to love life as much as possible before it all gets taken all away. By the time he had stopped his acting and playwright career, he had amassed a small fortune. He purchased a new house in Stratford and retired there in 1611. He wrote his will that very same year, leaving most of his property to his daughter Susanna. What remained of his things was £300 to his other daughter Judith, and his second best bed, which he bequeathed to his wife. He died on April 23rd, 1616, and was interred at the Holy Trinity Church 2 days later. So, William Shakespeare, happy birthday?